For this first recipe, I'm going to use frozen vegetables because it's what I have on hand, and we're going to roast these. I'm going to make some jasmine rice. This is 1 cup. We're just going to cook this up on the stovetop, super simple. And then we are going to bake some tofu, and we're going to make it super crunchy. This is a silken tofu, extra firm. It is really soft. I love extra firm tofu, so if you want it like really, really dense, then you would definitely have to press this. It has a very different texture than what I normally buy, but I really like it, especially if you do crunchy. I feel like this is what all the restaurants that I eat at use, and I think I have found a recipe that will be so good and really easy. So grab a bowl, grab some tofu, grab a plethora of seasonings. Like, what is happening in Miranda's kitchen? I know. So I have some cornstarch, this hot chili pepper paste is so good. Green chili sauce, cocoa minos, mustard, garlic, ginger, salt, little whisk, little bowl. We're gonna just make this most fabulous crunchy tofu bowl that's gonna be so good for lunch this week. Let's get started first with the rice, because that's probably gonna take about the same amount of time as the oven baked goods, but we'll get this started first. All right, I do have 2 sheet pans with parchment paper. That's my preferred method for cooking. You can do the no slip mats, you can do aluminum foil, you can do nothing, whatever you want, do whatever you prefer. But we're gonna get this up to 425. Get that preheating. And I'm just gonna slide this one over and start my rice. Also wanna give a little shout out to my tripod today, the grapefruit scented candle from Trader Joe's. If you find this, it is my favorite. And I did buy a few of them yesterday because they're so good. Also got those flowers over there on my broken table. More on that later, but they're so beautiful. Okay, I shouldn't have said broken table. I should have said defective, but no worries, guys. This dining room table issue has literally been a year as of February in the making. But don't worry, I just got off the phone with West Elm and they will have one to me in the next 6 to 8 months. Okay, so I do want to say this did not crumble the same as the extra firm tofu that I normally use, but it still turned out really great. So it doesn't matter what kind of tofu you use. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and add some cornstarch, about 3 tablespoons, since I do have 2 blocks of tofu. I'm just eyeballing it. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you're just gonna sprinkle that in. Okay, it's more like 1/3 of a cup. Doesn't matter. And then once this is in, I'm going to just kind of stir it with my spoon, and I'll let it sit for 3 to 4 minutes so the tofu kind of absorbs that cornstarch, and it kind of will make it so good and crispy when we cook it in the oven. All right, now that this has been sitting for just a couple of minutes and the cornstarch is really absorbed to how I like it to look, it just kind of looks so it's attached, I guess, to the tofu. Just let it sit for a couple minutes. It turns out best that way. Okay, add a little salt. You don't have to add salt if you don't want to. A little bit of ginger, garlic, cocoa minos, about 3 or 4 tablespoons or whatever you want. I was gonna mix it and whisk it and make it look beautiful, but we ain't doing that because I don't wanna waste it. Like, I don't wanna dirty another dish. Any kind of mustard that you'd like, about 2 tablespoons. I'm going to do just regular yellow mustard, and this is gonna be for another recipe too, so. Green dragon sauce, skip this if you don't like heat, but I think it's so good and it just goes really well with all the flavors. About a tablespoon of that. And I've been really enjoying this from Trader Joe's. I'm sure they have it in other like grocery stores as well. I just don't know what it would be called. About a tablespoon of this. Okay, now that it's starting to look like egg salad and not like baked tofu, mix it up real good. And then we're gonna bring it over to our stovetop, get on our baking sheet, and get it in the oven. Perfect timing. Our preheated oven just beeped. Our rice is going. Gonna put a lid on this, set a timer for about 12 minutes, turn the heat to low, put this in the oven. As you can see, it's more mushy than if you were to do cube tofu, but trust me, it's gonna be so good. Put it in for 25 minutes, 425, and flip it about halfway. It's awesome, especially with rice and veggies. All right, other baking dish, we're gonna go ahead and pop our, ow, that was hot. Steam coming out of there. Our veggies on here. We're gonna add a little salt and garlic. Pop these in the oven, 425, about 20-ish minutes. You can roast them as dark as you want to. It's actually kind of nice when they are frozen because you don't have to add anything additional. The water kind of releases from them and makes them really nice and crunchy. So bake them as long as you want. I do about 20 minutes. Let's go ahead and add in some prices here because I love a good price point. I love a good
budget video. These meals cost me $1.66 a piece if you don't include the seasonings, but I did a quick breakdown of seasonings and it was about $1.85. So I feel like that's awesome. The tofu I got for $1.25 a pack. I used about 50 cents worth of rice since I just used 1 cup. And then the veggies I got for 10 for 10, so they were $1 a package, which if you do the math really quick, that's $5 worth of ingredients. And you're probably thinking, why did you only make 3 of them? Well, I could have obviously made more. I only had 2 packs of tofu left, though, in my refrigerator. And I'm pretty sure if I would have froze these, I would have got a better texture. I know these don't look pretty, but they taste so good. And as when it comes to how I'm warming them up, I usually put them in a skillet and reheat them or just pop it in the microwave. It does make the tofu a little less crunchy, but for a better term, it almost has like a honey glaze on it right now where it gets really crispy and on the outside and the inside is really, really tender. So it's really good. I usually make this with the other tofu I use from Trader Joe's or from Kroger. This one's still really good. It has more of an egg-like texture. I know that's weird, but like a hard-boiled egg. That's how I remember hard-boiled eggs. So I feel like an egg salad sandwich would have been really good with this, but I can't make egg salad sandwich and what I'm making next too much.
I am so excited for this lunch because I've been craving it all like forever, it feels like. And I just keep saying like, oh, I'm going to make it. Haven't made it. So we're doing a chickpea salad sandwich, if you will, but because it's springtime and I feel like these are just so good, we're gonna put on these for the week, and I'll just throw these in my lunch bag and then have this on the side and then just plop them on here. But you could do bread, croissants, crackers. I feel like this is more cracker-esque, but I love these from Trader Joe's. Picked some up yesterday. And yeah, if you've tried that like crisp biscuit, gluten-free, multigrain something biscuit, I'll pop a picture up here. And you've tried that at Trader Joe's, let me know how it is. I would love to know. Okay, so we have some sandwich slims, which are just, they were on sale and they're really good. And I just grabbed them. Banana peppers, garbanzo beans, carrots, those are for the side, and grapes we're gonna throw in the salad. I'm gonna wash these up, chop these into little chunks, and then basically this and some seasoning is gonna go together in my food processor, and that's gonna make this beautiful lunch.
I forgot to also add the extra grapes because as you can see, I'm using about a 1/2 cup total. I also pack those for my lunch as well. Just wash them off and put them in another container. You're going to see me put the carrots in a container, but you're not going to see the grapes. So I just wanted to let you know that that was just kind of part of my lunch. And I only made 5 lunches for the week, even though, yes, there are 7 days in a week. On weekends, sometimes we'll go out to lunch or we'll have like an early dinner. We've been going out more that it's nice out because we've been going to our favorite patio places or we've been going to a friend's house. So like our weekends have just been like all over the place. But I have been craving this chickpea chicken. I call it chicken, like chicken, not chicken. I've been craving this since I made my pantry video, and that was over a month ago. But I've been just thinking about this recipe I saw on TikTok where you just take pickles or relish, mustard, chickpeas, and you put on a saltine cracker. And I don't usually eat saltines because I do try to eat gluten-free, and I don't know if they're gluten-free or not. I'm sure there's probably a gluten-free saltine cracker out there somewhere. I just don't know about it. But rice cakes to me are basically the same thing. But I added some banana peppers, a little bit of pickle juice, a little bit of banana pepper juice. It was so good. It just like hit the spot. And I ended up serving this as 2 lunches. So I used half and half, and I feel like that's a good meal portion for me. It's also really light feeling. It's getting hot here really quick. Like 3 weeks ago, I ran a marathon and it was so cold I thought I was going to die. My face was frozen. And then yesterday it was 82 degrees and I got sunburned. Like I feel like here in Vegas, we go from like winter to summer in a blink of an eye. Like we don't really have a spring. Our spring is like everybody else's summer, and then our actual summer is like you're touching Hades, but I love the heat. So here I am, just kind of dishing everything up. Also, I got these cute little dishes. You can't even see it. I didn't show you, from the dollar section at Target for like $3 or $5, and they're so cute. They're so spring-like, the little square ones. I will try to share a community post with a picture of it tomorrow with my lunch because it's so adorable. But this is like the perfect lunch. I went ahead and just threw the rice cakes in my bag and then just like kept them in my car because it doesn't really matter. But you can dip the carrots in. Oh man, this was like the best lunch this week, being that it was so hot out.
Every change has a reason, baby, let it come to you.
friends, do me a huge favor and give this video a huge thumbs up. It helps me out so much. So it has been a year and a half since I've done this style of video. I've only done eating for $1 a day once. So let's just jump right in. So with this box of mashed potatoes, I'll explain later why I decided to use it, but it has 34 servings and it cooks up so incredibly quick, like 3 minutes, you have some mashed potatoes. Also, I am only using salt, and that's just an ingredient I feel like everyone may have at their house. If they don't, that's okay. You don't need any seasonings, but you can also add whatever you'd like. I'm just keeping it super, super simple and really sticking to that $7 budget. I really wanted to see how much I could make for $1 a day and if it was still possible in 2023. I know it was possible in years past because I'd done it before. These potatoes are looking nice and fluffy and delicious. I did add additional water to them because I only used water as an ingredient when mixing them up. I didn't add any butter, so I just made them kind of eyeballed them, if you will. So let's get into breakfast. So this pan is actually already dirty because I just made lunch in it, but we're reversing back in time. I am adding a little bit of Pam cooking spray because I was worried that this would stick. So I'm taking my freshly made mashed potatoes and making potato pancakes. Now they're not the most beautiful potato pancakes in the world, but they sure were delicious. And I'm going to explain to you what I'm going to do for lunch for the rest of the week and kind of my thought process behind breakfast, because just hang tight, even though this breakfast looks kind of ugly, it still tasted good. So let's jump in and I'll explain to you what I'm doing for the rest of the week.
Checking in with you really quickly, I know breakfast does not look the best. Originally, I was going to use my waffle maker because that's how we love to do leftover mashed potatoes, whether they're instant mashed potato flakes or homemade mashed potatoes. But I figured that I would get roasted in the comments if I used something other than my stovetop or oven, because if I think of what someone has for essentials, a waffle maker is not an essential home kitchen appliance. So I decided to go ahead and make them as a pancake, and going forward tomorrow, I'll make them a little bit drier so they cook up a little bit faster, but they're still very tasty. I mean, they have a nice crunch on the outside. They're really creamy on the inside, super creamy on the inside. So I just thought I would add that really quick. So hang with me because lunch is possibly the most fabulous thing ever, and I've never made these before. Also, if you're wondering why I did potato flakes and not regular potatoes, is because of the price. When it goes by volume, I could get actually a lot more servings out of the potato flakes than I could the actual potatoes. And I was also thinking for convenience. If you are someone who is really stressed and managing your money and maybe having to really buckle down, an instant potato can be really helpful because they're ready in like 5 minutes. You don't have to make mashed potatoes, peel them and boil them, or if you don't peel them, chop them, boil them, etc., if you know what I mean. And I didn't want to use my Instant Pot for regular potatoes and have that for convenience because, again, kitchen appliances, you see what I'm trying to say here. But I think instant mashed potatoes are kind of looked over a lot of the times, but that box has 34 servings. And today alone, you'll see what I have for dinner. I have enough to make one more dinner, which is huge. I have enough for 3 pancakes or waffles every single morning, and I have enough for a serving at lunch every day. So yes, there is a main starch component, but I feel like there's enough variety where I won't be tired of it this week. So come on, let's go finish and I'll share with you what I'm making for lunch.
This was such an awesome lunch, and I love doing these types of budget videos because sometimes I stumble across a meal that I know is going to be a staple in our house for a long time. So I took 2 cans of black beans. I did drain the liquid. I kept some of the liquid. I did not rinse them. The reason is because I needed the liquid to add a mixture component so you can kind of see what the beans look like. Just like I said, just drained them, didn't rinse them. And then I added about a half a cup of mashed potato flakes in total. I just kind of eyeballed it, but I added the starch to the beans to soak up that liquid, and then it made it really, really easy to mash. So I just mashed them with a fork. It just took a couple minutes, and added a little bit of potato flakes at a time until they became the perfect consistency. And you'll see here, there's really no way that you could really mess this up. If you added a little extra potato flakes, it would just be a little bit thicker. But as you can see, I'm just kind of mixing and adding a little bit at a time. And you can see how thick and creamy these mashed beans are getting. And then I made a black bean burger, and I can only imagine how good this would be with some roasted peppers inside of it, maybe some onions. These were amazing texture-wise, and they're really just 2 ingredients. Add a little bit of salt if you want to, add some additional seasonings, maybe add some garlic, but these were so good. I can see these being a staple for us all summer long. If you have a grill, you could definitely grill these, but the texture was absolutely fabulous. I've always had a hard time with black bean burgers, kind of getting them to stick together, but I saw a very well executed recipe on a blog that had like 30 ingredients. I thought, no, you know what? I can make this with 2. And I did. And I'm so happy with these. So if you have black beans and mashed potatoes on hand right now, I highly recommend trying these out this weekend. So then I just added some more of the mashed potatoes that I went ahead and pre-made. So that way I had a bunch made for the week. Added a few black bean burgers. I ended up making 10 total black bean burgers so I could have 2 at lunch each day. And this was super filling and delicious. And like I said, these burgers are a highly must try, even if you're not on an extreme budget. They are so good, and you can kind of add whatever ingredients you want to them to kind of zhuzh them up a little bit. I cannot recommend these enough. The texture was absolutely perfect.
So when my husband and I were going through our debt-free journey a few years ago, if you followed that 2020 through 2021 6 months solid, we paid off almost $35,000 in debt. I can link a video down below and tell you how we did it if you'd like, but basically we grinded. We spent $30 a week on groceries, which I know $30 a week then stretched more than $30 a week now because high inflation, but a lot of times we did these dollar per person like for an entire week. We did $2 per person for an entire week. Like I said, $30 was our budget. So we were as extreme as possible. And no, not every single day we get 3 servings of produce, vegetables, and fruit. And still to this day, we don't do that. We're not perfect. So I do feel like a lot of times people will come to these style of videos and they will comment about everything that's wrong with it. If that's the case, maybe this video isn't for you. Maybe you've never been so crunched financially that you are just looking to feed yourself some calories for the week, and that is why I decided to design this style of video. So maybe it's not for everyone, but I know it's for someone, and I hope that it helps someone out today.
Like I said, I made 2 of these for dinner this week, but the first step I needed to do was make some homemade lentils. I love lentils, especially if you make them with taco seasoning and have them as a taco component. 1 bag of lentils ends up being 2.5 cups, and I just used 1 cup this day, and then I used the rest the next time I made this shepherd's pie. If you've never made homemade lentils before, it's super easy. It's 1 cup of lentils to 2.5 cups of water. You bring it to a boil. Once it comes to a boil, you put a lid on it, turn it down to low, and let them cook for 25 minutes. They always turn out perfect. And you can add any seasonings that you like to them. My favorite is taco seasonings. To a large bowl, I added my tomatoes and my mixed vegetables. You could have definitely went a different route with any of the inside seasonings or flavors to this shepherd's pie, but I went with the mixed vegetable cans just to kind of give it some extra volume and of course a little bit of vegetables. And this I actually split in half. I used half for this day and then half on Wednesday when I made a second pie. So I just kind of layered my shepherd's pie here. I make shepherd's pie all the time on my channel and I use different ingredients all the time. You can really add anything to the inside of a lentil pie and it's so good. So there you see my kind of vegetable layer. If you can't have tomatoes, you can definitely substitute for something else. Then I added my lentils and this really bulked it up. Lunch and dinner have very high protein, lots of nutrients going on. Breakfast might have been a little sad with just the mashed potato pancakes or waffles, but I did forget to mention mashed potato french fries. So good. And you can add a couple of vegetables if you want to add a couple of dollars worth to this as well, but this is extreme. And then I made some fork lines for the shepherd's pie. A little bit of paprika on the top of this is so good if you have it, but I'm just using salt this day just to kind of really be extreme, if you will. Sometimes it's fun to be really extreme for me with my budget to see what I can come up with because I did it for so long before. My whole goal when I do these types of videos is to give you all some inspiration to just use some things that you have on hand. Yes, all of these things I have on hand and most likely need to be used up because I don't like things just sitting around. I do have a pantry for like emergencies, but things like this white rice I've had on hand now for almost 3 months and I haven't used it. And this onion shallot thing, been around for a while. The mixed veggies, I'm pretty sure I got in January from Target. And tofu, I think it was near its expiration date. I tend to buy things based on a meal plan every single week, but I don't always get to them, unfortunately. Sometimes just weeks happen and things sit in my fridge. Here are the 2 condiments I wanted to use up, the cocoa aminos and the sweet chili sauce. These are things we always have on hand, but I haven't repurchased because I just had, some out on hand, and I was like, oh, we don't need any sauces yet. Originally, I was going to make this a condiment focused and then use up a lot of the condiments in my fridge, but you know what? It just didn't happen this week. It just didn't feel that inspired to make crazy new meals. As you can see, this was just a really simple make the rice and put the veggies in the microwave, and then the tofu I just ended up making in the skillet, and it turned out really, really good. And as far as reheating this for my lunches, my husband took some of these to work. I took some of them to work. He ate them microwaved, and I put them back in a skillet to reheat them. This sauce for the tofu was so good. I just added the shallot, some cocoa aminos, and ended up adding them all. It was like maybe a 1/4 cup, maybe a 1/3 cup, and then the sweet chili sauce I added a little bit of water to, add a little cornstarch slurry, and it got nice and thick. It would be so much better if I would have marinated my tofu, but wait till later, I do marinate a tofu, and then baked it, but I just didn't have time. And sometimes turning your oven on when it's like 100 degrees just isn't overall energy productive, because then your whole house has to cool down, and I don't have an air fryer anymore, so this is just what I did. But again, this is just to hopefully inspire you to, maybe use something up you have at home or try something different. A lot of times when I do these meals, since I'm like basically shopping my own pantry, fridge, and freezer, I don't have a meal plan. I don't have an idea of what I'm going to make, and so I just take things out that I feel like go well together and make them into a meal. And I shared this over on Instagram. I was actually super inspired this day by my neighbor because I knew she was meal prepping for the week. She was getting after it and meal prepping breakfast, lunch, and dinner to set herself up for success. She is getting ready for her wedding, and I was texting her. I was like, you know what? I'm going to make some lunches for the week. You inspired me, and I shared this over on Instagram. So if you don't follow me over there, I try to post daily just like lifestyle, workouts, food, just tons of different stuff. So like I said, I reheated this in the skillet. This white rice, I'm like on the fence with. Somebody had commented on the video where I got it and said, let me know what you think of it. I feel like it's kind of slimy. I feel like the cooking directions just aren't correct. I don't know. It says to add like 1.25 cups of water per bag, but then it's like really liquidy. And you're right, it is kind of slimy when you reheat it. I feel like it's good right off the bat, like when you eat it fresh, but I don't feel like it's very good reheated. Again, I put it on the stovetop, so it kind of dried out a little bit, but it does have a weird texture in compared to regular rice. So I don't know, I'm kind of on the fence with it. I did like that it was higher in protein. I am trying to eat a lot more protein these days with my meals. So this meal in total had like 33 grams of protein, and I'm going to pop up a picture here because I totally forgot to film since I was like on Instagram. So there is the finished product. It was a really pretty lunch. All right, let's get into my pantry and use up some of these lentils. I thought I had way more lentils than I actually do on hand, but that's okay. This is a use it up recipe video, so I'm using up what I have. So I found this recipe from Growing Ananas, which is a workout girl that I follow on YouTube. She shares a lot of shorts and different things, and she made these 2 ingredient wraps. However, I let them sit overnight because I didn't feel like they were blossomed enough, so it's a double liquid to red lentils. So like if you're using 1/2 cup of red lentils like I did, use 1 cup of water. You're supposed to let them sit for 3 to 4 hours. As you can see, they're kind of blossoming. I just let them sit overnight and it was perfect. After I let them sit overnight, I threw them into my food processor, blended, or not food processor, oh my goodness, my Vitamix. You can use a food processor probably too, but it depends on what one you have, if you can add liquid to it or not. So threw them into my blender, whipped them up, and then heated them in the skillet, and they made such good wraps. However, like the white rice, they were not as good once I put them in the refrigerator. And you'll see I only made 3 wraps because I only had 1/2 cup of lentils. I would make these again, but they would be something I would make for like taco night or burrito night, and then I would have them fresh. The texture was weird once I put them in the refrigerator, and even though I reheated them, I was like, didn't like love them. There's something for me that I would have to eat warm and fresh, but they turned out so good. I do want to see if I can use other lentils for these. I'm just curious to see if other lentils would do the same thing, if I could sprout them. But if you're looking for like a really inexpensive wrap, they're not super low calorie, but they're really filling and really good. And you'll have to wait to see what I stuffed them with later because I did decide to marinate some tofu. But like I said, these were so good. It is a timelier process, obviously, if you let them sit for 3 hours or overnight, but I feel like they're worth it. They're really, really good when they're fresh. I feel like they would make a great pizza too. I thought about trying that, like reheating them. Again, I only made 3 because of only having a half a cup of lentils, but I feel like they were just really good. I don't know. It's just something different, and they're high protein, and I feel like lentils are just like really accessible and they're gluten-free. So let's get back in my pantry. I'm making my favorite thing ever. I'm obsessed with black bean burgers. If you've seen any recent videos, I think I've made these twice in recent videos. I just can't help it. It's 2 ingredients, black beans and mashed potato flakes. That's it. But you can add anything you want to the inside of them to kind of amp up the flavor. We're going to go in and get an onion and use some balsamic and do a balsamic onion on the top. I, again, am meal prepping these for the week so I can just take them with me. I find that Monday through Friday, I have to have my meals ready to go because otherwise I fall into this trap of like ordering food, skipping a meal, just having a protein shake. And it's just like with me and my lifestyle, just having food ready to go that I can just pull out and throw into a meal, whether it's bulk meal prep or having meals ready, just works for me. So with these black bean burgers, you're just going to open up your cans or boxes or black beans or however it is. I don't rinse them. I drain the excess liquid, but you do need a little bit of liquid. So if you are making these in the Instant Pot or crock pot and making them fresh, you do need a little bit of liquid with it just because it helps the potatoes kind of adhere to the beans a little bit better. So for every can of black beans, you're going to use a half cup of mashed potatoes. Pretty simple. Stir around with a fork, you kind of mash it a little bit, but the potatoes really bind the black beans together and they turn out so perfect. You could add anything you want to the inside of these. You could do red peppers, green peppers, onions, corn, make kind of like a Southwest black bean. That would be super, super good. I ended up making 6 patties, and each patty was 10 grams of protein. Again, I'm just trying to eat a little bit more protein in my life, so just a really awesome meal that you can make ahead, and they taste so good. I added some cumin, salt, and garlic to my burgers. As you can see, I made them into little patties, and I made these on the stovetop as well. And then I also cut up an onion and decided to do a balsamic onion because that just sounded so amazing. I didn't have a bun or anything, but as I was making these, I was thinking, ooh, those wraps that I made the day before would be so good with this made fresh. So just kind of sharing different ways that you could add a bun to this, some lettuce, some tomatoes, balsamic onion. Ooh, that sounds so good. But all I do is put these into a hot skillet and I cook them up, and I have some great black bean burgers. I'm going to be making these all summer. As far as it goes to warming them up, I just usually pop them in the microwave and they turn out perfect, but you can put them back in this skillet if you want to. You can leave them like this in the fridge and then just make them one at a time as you use them. Completely up to you. As the balsamic onions, I just put in a skillet and add a little balsamic to them once they start to get translucent and they're cooked to my liking. And then I put everything off to the side, let it cool, and then just pop it in my refrigerator, and then we can just pull it out as needed. Again, for us and our lifestyle, I feel like having meals on hand that we can reheat really easily that taste really, really good a couple of days in is like the perfect thing. And look at these burgers. They are so good. If you haven't made these yet, this is your sign. Make these. They're so good. I'm sure it would work with other beans as well, so you'll have to give it a try and let me know. All right, so we're going to marinate this tofu. It has been in my fridge for a while, but thank goodness it has a really long shelf life. But I like to use things to just kind of restart my refrigerator. As you can see in my refrigerator, it was kind of getting empty. I like that, so I can just like wipe it all down and then just make a big list, go to the store and get everything I need. So I decided to marinate this tofu with just some garlic, some brown mustard, green sauce, and then that red chili onion paste or whatever it is. It's so good. So it's very, very spicy, but this is what I put with the red lentil wrap. So I marinated this overnight and then I just baked it in my oven in the morning when it was nice and cool. I think I got up at like 5:20 in the morning just to bake this, which is not early for me. I usually get up between 3:30 and 4. So not that wasn't super early for me, but I just thought, you know what, it would taste so much better baked. Again, I don't have an air fryer or anything, so this would just be so good. I love spice, and I feel like with the wraps, you can add anything to them because they're very bland. I don't know. And you can marinate this any which way. I do a brown sugar marinade, which I haven't done in a long time, but I do it with the extra firm tofu, and I used to throw it in my air fryer. I might try to do it in my oven on broil one of these times, but I just do a couple of tablespoons of soy sauce, a little bit of garlic, and a tablespoon of brown sugar. Put that over the tofu, let it marinate overnight, and then put it in the air fryer, or you can put it in the oven, whatever. And it just, the sugar of the brown sugar like caramelizes it and makes it just so good. This was really good. It was a different type of tofu than I'm used to like marinating, air frying / baking, but it still turned out really, really good. It wasn't as crunchy as normal, but it's because it's silken tofu, but it had so much flavor. Let me know in a comment below which meal inspired you the most. Which one are you going to try out? I feel like these are just such simple meals that you could make at home no matter what ingredients you have on hand. You don't have to have the same sauces or seasonings as I do. You don't have to have the same beans or tofu, but you could probably make this work with anything that you have on hand. And you can see all of my meals in the refrigerator ready to go for the week. I absolutely love that so much. Oh, this was also another thing that I made this week that I did not film because I was with my friends when I made it, but these are sunflower bars, and I shared this over on Instagram, so pop over there and grab the recipe, or I will link it down below in my blog in case you're not on Instagram. These are like 4 ingredient bars. They're so good. They are high protein bars. They're amazing. So if you don't have sunflower butter, you can use any different kind of butter you'd like, and they have a little bit of sea salt on the top. Just so easy to use. Okay, so the next day we are down to marinate our tofu, let it sit in the refrigerator for a while. I also had those bananas I wanted to use up this week, just didn't get to it. It's crazy to me how in my mind I have like 30 different things I want to make, but then when it comes down to it, I just don't have time. And I don't always film everything either. I want everyone to know that I don't film my entire life. I don't film every meal. When I say I'm going to use something up, sometimes I just grab like a half a bag of frozen veggies that are in the fridge and some beans that are in the freezer, and I'm like, okay, this is a meal, and I used it up. So this is what I used the wraps for. It was really, really delicious. I highly recommend, if anything from this video, you make the wraps and the black bean burgers and maybe marinate some tofu to pop on the grill or put in the air fryer for dinner this week.
2 ingredients here that I've never used before. This vegan cream cheese alternative from Trader Joe's, and it's made with coconut and potato starch, chickpea protein. I'm really on the fence with how this is going to taste, but I feel like if I mix all of this together, it's going to be good. The other thing that I was talking about, let me know if you've tried this. It's the Impossible meat. I know I've had it as a burger at a restaurant before, but I've never personally cooked with it. And every time we go to Trader Joe's, I see it and I'm like, I should just try it. Fun fact, before I went plant-based, I hadn't eaten red meat in over 10 years. So I don't actually like hamburger, but I do remember having the Impossible meat at a restaurant before, and it was like, okay. So I was like, okay, I'll try it. It has 19 grams of protein. I'm trying to eat a lot more protein in my diet, and I feel like my husband will like it. So if I don't like this dish, I know he's gonna like it because this is like his jam. So 5 ingredients. This is actually a really inexpensive meal, and if you want to make it cheaper, swap the Impossible for lentils. That's how I would like definitely prefer this. But again, I'm trying to step outside my comfort zone, cook with new things, because you never know, you might really like it. A lot of people suggest that I would like this. People tag me on Instagram all the time with different recipes, so I'm like, okay, I'll try it. So we have one of these, which, like I said, if you want to make it cheaper, switch out for lentils. That will make this this side item like less than $1. We have diced tomatoes. You can also use fresh tomatoes or tomato sauce. The cream cheese alternative, if you can't find this or don't have anything like it, you could just use nut milk instead and a little bit of corn starch, and it'll make it as a thickener. It won't be the exact same, but it'll be close enough. We're gonna use part of this onion. This is a massive onion. This onion was 99 cents at Trader Joe's since they charge by the onion, and it's like literally the biggest onion I've ever seen in my life. So we're gonna use just part of that. And then also the brown rice penne pasta from Trader Joe's. I'm just gonna use half of this because I'm gonna use half for another recipe. So here is ingredients, 5 or less, which it ends up being 5 today, and so is the second one. We're gonna chop this massive onion. I'm only gonna do like a quarter of it. So it's like a half a cup of onion. I feel like that's perfect. This is also a very potent onion, and I even had it in the refrigerator, which I thought was the secret to keeping it so it wouldn't burn your eyeballs. That's a lie. Since I've only been cooking for like a minute, but I am gonna add the meat. I don't know why this creeps me out so much, but like I said, I have a lot of people on Instagram that use it and they love it, and they're always like, oh, you should make meals with it, and they're tagging me in recipes. Like I said, I know my husband's gonna like it. I'm just so on the fence with it. Maybe it's just because of how it looks, but I'm gonna mix this in with the onions and cook it until it's browned. All right, it's been like 2 minutes and it's basically cooked, I think. I mean, again, I don't eat red meat. I haven't eaten red meat in 10 years, so it's not like I really cook with it, but that's what I'm kind of like going off of because that feels right. I am adding the diced tomatoes and I'll let this cook for like another 2 minutes. Tomatoes always help everything cook faster. All right, I'm gonna add in 2 cups of water and then bring it to a boil because I am gonna add pasta. So I want boiling water for the pasta, so that is a 1-pot meal. And this should kind of make everything like really saucy and thick. So it'll be like, just really like sticking to the pasta and be really like a thick goulash type of meal. We're gonna call it 1-pot lasagna, okay? Since my water is boiling, this thing cooks everything so fast. I will link it down below if you'd like. It is amazing. I also have the toaster from the same company. We're gonna add in about that much pasta. It's almost half the bag. Since it is a make-ahead meal, I'm only gonna cook the gluten-free pasta for 5 minutes and then take it off the heat and add the cream cheese so that way it's not overbaked and it doesn't become really mushy. Since I'm not rinsing this one, but you can also make it on the side if you want to. It's personal preference. That's a great way to also make it, but this just makes it so it's an actual 1-pot meal. Okay, I'm taking the heat off of this, but adding my cream cheese and then putting a lid on it and setting it aside. And cream cheese wise, I didn't taste this before putting it in, but I tasted the pasta and it kind of blew me away. Like, I'm so surprised at how much I like it. I'm using about half the cream cheese. The flavor is there. It needs a little bit more salt for my preference, but this is actually really good. I'm glad I tried something new. I think I'm just getting tired of my regular protein sources, so I'm really happy with this. So I'm just gonna leave the kind of cream cheese like this and I'll stir it again in a little bit, but it's off the heat. We're gonna put the lid on, scooch it back to the side in the back. Ooh, that's so hot, hold on. I'll let it sit back here for just a couple of minutes, check on it, but I don't want those noodles to overcook since this is going to be a make-ahead meal. Definitely give this one a try. Like, honestly, this took me less than 10 minutes to put together and I feel like it's so good. I will definitely make this again. And I think I'm also gonna try to make it with lentils and see which I like better. So let me know which one you're gonna make, lentils or the Impossible. Let's check on this pot. It's been sitting for a few minutes. Yes, it definitely looks completely done. Cheese is nice and melty. This looks good. I'm very happy about this. I'm not gonna serve it up because I'm actually gonna just store it in this pot. I'm just gonna put it in the garage refrigerator and we can eat it as we want throughout the week. Super good. I would say this is like 4 to 6 servings depending on how you serve it up. Perfect. A meal in 10 minutes. That's what I call fantastic. The second recipe is like a Mediterranean pasta salad, and I keep seeing ones similar to this, and I think it sounds so good, especially to make ahead and have in the refrigerator. The secret with the brown rice pasta is to only cook it for 5 minutes, so it's super al dente. So once it completely cools down and you put it in your refrigerator, it's not super soggy the next day. And make sure you rinse it thoroughly because that will also help stop the cooking because you're rinsing out the starches. So you have English cucumber, which is my favorite, the brown rice penne pasta, a tomato, the 3-layer hummus from Trader Joe's. You can use any hummus you want, or you can substitute for chickpeas, like mashed, or you can make your own hummus, completely up to you. I will leave a hummus recipe down below from my blog if you want to check that one out. And then the olives, which I know a lot of people don't like olives, so you could definitely leave this out, but I feel like the olives just add that nice touch to make it super Mediterranean. But like I said, if you want to substitute this for chickpeas or take it out altogether, and then we also have the tomato, if I don't already say so. But I feel like this is gonna be so good. Adding banana peppers to this would be so good. And there's also a vegan feta at Trader Joe's, which I've never tried, also be really good in this, but I decided to keep it super simple today and just go with these 5 items. Moving on to the next one, the Mediterranean pasta. I have my water here and we're just gonna bring it to a boil and then add salt. Okay, pasta is cooked, rinsed, back in the pan. And we're just gonna add everything in. Olives, cucumber, tomato. And I'm gonna do about half of this hummus. That should be really good. This one is so delicious. Let me know if you've had it. Give it a good stir. And this is going right into the refrigerator because again, I'm making this one ahead and I want the noodles to be cooled so they're not continuing to cook. You can add a little more salt or garlic, which I'm going to do. You can add a little dill if you want to. This is looking perfection. Another meal in less than 10 minutes. Literally all you have to do is chop the tomatoes and chop the cucumber, and that's all the work that is involved. And you could add some red onion to this. You could add some chickpeas. You could add this to a salad when it's cold. Looks delicious. I feel like the hummus just like makes it look kind of mushy, but it looks so recipe good. Number one is that famous Barbie pasta. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's bright pink, but we're adding an element of protein. I was going to do tofu, but the other recipe calls for tofu and I want to try to switch it up. And I've done it with both. I've done it with tofu and I've done it with beans, and I actually prefer it with beans because of the texture, but you could do either. So 1 can of northern beans, a package of beets. These are already steamed and peeled. You could definitely do canned beets too. I just get these at Trader Joe's. They're super good. And then I like to use gluten-free pasta, but you can use anything that you like. This totals right around the $5 mark, give or take, depending on which brand you buy. If you do can, if you do a different pasta, this could be less or more, just depending. But so simple, so easy, and you're gonna have like the perfect meal in under 10 minutes. All right, let's talk seasoning. Salt, basil, oregano. This is actually powdered garlic, not garlic salt. It just has the wrong label. But that's all I'm doing for the pasta, just to kind of give it a little bit of flavor, but I'm not gonna go overboard because I really want to taste the beets. If you don't like beets, you could probably switch it out for something else, but if you're making this, it's probably because you like beets. Also, roasting your beets gives it a whole new flavor, so if you haven't tried that, definitely do so. While my pasta water is coming to a boil, I'm gonna take my beets and my beans, pop them in my Vitamix, and blend them until smooth. When the pasta is finished, I will drain the pasta, put it back into the pot, add my sauce, and make the pasta perfection. Literally, this takes 10 minutes because it takes 3 minutes for my water to come to a boil, 7 minutes for it to cook. I'm doing the sauce on the side. It's the perfect summer meal. Add a salad. If you haven't made like a vinegar salad, I will type out a recipe and put it in the description box. It's my favorite and I've been having it like every single day for weeks. But like a vinegar salad, it's so good with this. I don't know what it is, but it just adds element to this dish, and you can add it for a couple of dollars.
I did want to quickly add, in case you are wondering why my pasta isn't as bright Barbie pink as the pictures from the INSPO, is because I did beans. When I made it with tofu last week, it was super bright because the white added to the beets. Anyways, just in case you're curious. But you can also do like a feta cheese. I've seen people do like a vegan, or if you're not vegan, or if you're just plant-based, whatever. I've seen people do a cream cheese, so it just really depends on what you're looking for. As far as flavorings go, you can basically add anything. I just wanted to add a little earthy tones to go with the beets, but definitely roasting the beets, which is what I did the first time, adds the most impact on flavor. And I could have done that this day, but this was actually a meal I'm making ahead, and I would actually recommend making extra sauce, which the sauce I made today, I had enough for 2 of my pastas, so I would actually recommend making extra sauce, putting it in a recycled glass jar, popping it in the refrigerator, or even the freezer. You could leave it for up to a week in the refrigerator, or you can mark it and probably leave it up to 6 months in your freezer. Definitely recommend making extra ahead of time. It's so good. It's so earthy. The flavor is just like amazing. Again, if you don't like beets, you might not love it, but hey, maybe this would be a way that you would like beets. But again, I feel like with a vinegar salad, it's so delicious and it's so quick and so easy. Definitely give this one a try.
Meal number 2, another super simple recipe, 3 ingredients, less than $5. A bag of rice cost me about $2. I am using less than $1 worth. So you can definitely switch up, use brown rice. It's just as inexpensive. You could use a lentil if you want, but I'm kind of doing like a spin on a Buddha bowl. Tofu is the most expensive thing here. It's right under $3, and I got the broccoli for $1 on sale. So total, if I was even using all the rice, it's still so inexpensive and just a large volume meal. But like I said, I'm only using about $1 worth of rice, a little less than that. I like this high protein tofu from Trader Joe's. Also, I'm on a mission to eat more protein because that is what my doctor calls of me as we are doing the IVF process right now. And then there's a little bit of protein in the broccoli as well. I like to add broccoli to my meals when it's roasted or steamed. So we're gonna roast these two. We're also gonna add a really awesome glaze. And then I'm just gonna cook this up over the stovetop. If you have an air fryer, perfection. These two are perfection in the air fryer. I don't have one currently, but I'm looking at getting a new one, and I asked for recommendations on my last video, and if you have another recommendation, let me know. Everybody seems to like theirs for a certain reason, and I've added all of them to a list, and I'm carefully deciding on which one to purchase. So let's get these chopped up, get the glaze on them, get this on the stovetop. This will take about 20 minutes total, which is still a great time. You're not wasting a lot of time in the kitchen, especially in the summer, but if you have an air fryer, like 10 minutes. Okay, for the glaze, you're just gonna need a bowl, Avi. Secret ingredient in this one is brown sugar. You don't have to use this if you don't want to, but we're doing really tangy, so we want that brown sugar to have the sweetness. I add about 2 tablespoons, and unfortunately my brown sugar has gone hard. Well, it's like, not hard, but it's like kind of dense. So I'm just going like this with it. But it's about 2 tablespoons. This really makes the glaze. Trust me, just add it. I really like this mustard. You can use any mustard that you have sitting around, but I think it adds such a nice tang because of the vinegar, the white vinegar. And I'm using about 3 tablespoons of that. I like things a little bit spicy. Leave this out if you don't like spice. You could also instead substitute a soy sauce or a cocoa aminos instead of using the green dragon sauce. And I'm only using about a teaspoon because we don't need it to be like overly spicy. Little salt, little garlic. If you want to thin this down a little bit, you could, more so than it is, you could definitely add the cocoa aminos or soy sauce or a little bit of water. I like it a little bit thicker because I feel like it coats the tofu so good.
If you haven't noticed, I haven't done very many budget videos recently because personally with the way I've been eating, I've been working on surviving. And to me, taking on one more element with food and really in general with life right now, just because there's so much going on for me that the realistic budget of like taking my food one more step has just not been happening. But I do have a couple budget videos on deck for August, just something different. I want to do a full week of meals on a certain budget. And if you guys have any amounts you want me to use, like $20 per person, $30 for the entire week, or X amount of dollars per meal, let me know down in the comments below. I'll see if I can be helpful to you and kind of abide by those. But I do have more coming. It's just been me surviving over here, and that's why you haven't seen so many.
All right, I don't even bother tossing everything in the glaze because I'm gonna stir it halfway through, and I find that to be the best option for me. So I did put some on the broccoli and some on the tofu. I'm gonna roast this at 425 once my oven is preheated for about 20 minutes. Halfway through, I will stir it. You can also add sesame seeds after, which I'm gonna do for the broccoli because I feel like it just adds a little bit of just extra, but we'll put this with the rice as soon as it's done. My timer just went off. And this is actually my lunch, so I am so excited. And your tripod for the day is actually my injection medication. So you guys are just part of my journey. This smells so good. It smells sweet and tangy, and I literally cannot wait to dig into this for lunch. My husband will be home in a little bit, so I'll wait to serve up his, but there's nothing better than, in my opinion, roasted tofu, a veggie, and stovetop rice. I could eat it for every single meal. The only reason I don't is because I share meals on YouTube, and I feel like that would get so boring. But let me know your favorite way to eat tofu.
This meal is so good. Like, hit it on repeat all summer long if you have an air fryer. And if you don't make perfect stovetop rice and it's intimidating to you, check out the recipe down below. It's so good. Thank you so much for joining me for today's recipes. Like I said, I hope you gave this video a huge thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not already, and I will see you soon in a brand new video. Bye-bye.